In astrology, the planets in your birth chart represent different parts of your personality and life experience. Each planet symbolizes a specific type of energy within us, such as our identity, emotions, communication style, relationships, motivation, and personal growth. The zodiac signs show how this energy expresses itself, and the houses in our birth chart show where these energies tend to show up in our lives. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the main planetary energies in astrology from the sun through Pluto and talk about what each one represents within your birth chart. Understanding these planets is one of the most important foundations in learning astrology because they help us to see the different layers of our personality and how these energies kind of shape our experiences and life paths. So let's start with the sun. In astrology, the sun represents your core identity, vitality, and life purpose. It reflects the part you want to shine, create, and express itself authentically. In your birth chart, the sun shows the qualities you are meant to develop and embody throughout your lifetime. The sun is associated with Leo and the fifth house, as every planet has an association to a zodiac sign and a house. So we say the way the sun is expressed through the energy of Leo and governs the fifth house. This relates to creativity, self-expression, joy, and individuality. So kind of think of the energy behind Leo and what that means. The archetype is the sovereign, and a healthy expression of your sun sign is confidence, creativity, leadership, and a strong sense of self. Again, the sun rules Leo, and these are attributes of the energy of Leo. So a shadow expression of this might be seeking validation, ego-driven behavior, or feeling invisible when you're not recognized. Again, think about how Leos, ruled by the sun, like to be the center of attention when they are not at the healthiest. So how does this show up in a birth chart? Your sun sign shows up how you identify naturally and expresses itself, while the house your sun sits in shows the area in your life where you are meant to shine and develop your purpose. So an example of how this energy shows up in real life is somebody with a strong sun energy often feels most fulfilled when they are creating, leading, or expressing themselves authentically. Next, we have the moon. In astrology, the moon represents your emotional world, your instincts, and your inner needs. It reflects how you process feelings, what makes you feel safe, and how you nurture yourself and others. The moon is associated with the sign Cancer, hence the nurturing aspect, and it rules the fourth house. So as this is expressed through the energy of Cancer and the fourth house, it relates to home, emotional security, family, and your inner foundation. The archetype is the caregiver. The healthy expression of your moon is being emotionally aware, nurturing, intuitive, and supportive. The shadow side would be overly reactive, moody, emotionally withdrawn, or overly dependent on others for security. Kind of think about how the crab can be crabby and then goes inside its shell because the crab is one of the signs for Cancer. So how does this show up in a birth chart? Your moon sign reveals how you naturally process emotions, while the house your moon sign sits in shows where you seek emotional comfort and security. So an example of this energy in real life is people with strong moon energy often feel most balanced when they have emotional stability, meaningful connections, and a sense of belonging. Next, we're going to move on to what is called your rising sign, or sometimes your ascendant, and it is also what we call the first house. So once we have moved past the sun sign in astrology, we often talk about the big three, and this would be your sun, your moon, and your rising. So in astrology, the rising sign, also called the ascendant, represents how you present yourself to the world and how others first perceive you. It reflects your outer personality, your natural way of approaching life, and the energy you lead with meeting new people. Hear me when I say we are just as much, if not more, our rising sign than our sun sign. And you should always read your horoscope and read about the energy of your rising sign. And some of you might think, people have never really recognized, or I've never really aligned with what my sun sign is. It is because our first most outward expression of our personality is whatever our rising sign is. So the rising sign is connected to the first house, as I said, which relates to our identity, our appearance, our self-expression, and the way we move through life. The zodiac sign on your ascendant shapes the style, the tone, and the energy of your outward expression. Often we look like our rising signs. So the archetype is the initiator, and the healthy expression is authentic self-expression, confidence in how you move through life, and a strong sense of presence. The shadow side can be over-identifying with your image, performing for approval, or simply feeling disconnected from your true authentic self. How this sign shows up in your birth chart is through the energy that you naturally project outward, while the first house reveals themes related to self-image, identity, and how you begin things. People often notice your rising sign energy first because it shapes first impressions, personal style, body language, and the general vibe somebody gives off before you get to know them more deeply. Now, keep in mind, the only way to know your rising sign is to know your birth time, as the ascendant sign and part of your birth chart changes roughly every 2 hours. Now that we have discussed the big three, we're going to start with the planets, working from the planet closest to the sun and moving outward. So the first planet we will discuss is Mercury. So Mercury represents communication, thinking, and how we process information. It reflects how we learn, speak, and understand the world around us. It is associated with the sign Gemini and also with the sign Virgo. It is connected to the third and the sixth house. The third house specifically governs communication, and the sixth house specifically governs daily routines and analysis. The archetype is the messenger. A healthy expression of Mercury is clear communication, curiosity, adaptability, and quick thinking. The shadow side can be overthinking, nervous energy, gossip, or even scattered thoughts. The way that Mercury shows up in your birth chart is how you communicate and process information, while the house your Mercury sits in reveals where your mind tends to focus most in life. An example of this energy would be people with strong Mercury energy often enjoy learning, teaching, writing, speaking, or exchanging ideas. One of the most common themes that we hear in the astrology world is the idea of Mercury being in retrograde. If you want to learn about that, I have some real short, simple explanation videos as well. Moving along, we next have Venus. Venus represents love, attraction, beauty, and personal values. It reflects how we relate to others, what we find pleasurable, and what we appreciate in life. Venus is associated with both Taurus and Libra, connected to the second and seventh houses. So not only is it expressed through the energy of Taurus and Libra, when it comes to the second house, that's talking about our values, and the seventh house is relationships. So when we think of Venus, we think of the planet of love and beauty, if you will, which is why the archetype is the lover. Somebody who shows a healthy expression of their Venus would be affectionate. They would appreciate beauty, have balance in relationships. The shadow side, however, is people-pleasing, overindulgence, dependency, or avoidance of conflict. A way to think about this would be Taurus is known for loving food and sleep, ruled by Venus, the things that make you feel good. Libra energy is known for wanting balance and harmony. Again, these are the energies of what Venus represents. So the way that this shows up in your birth chart can reveal how you give and receive love, while the house your Venus sits in shows where relationships, beauty, and pleasure may play a strong role in your life. People with strong Venus energy often value communication, harmony, art, beauty, and meaningful relationships. Next, we have the planet Mars, which is often referred to as the planet of anger and destruction. Mars represents drive, action, and personal motivation. It reflects how we pursue goals, assert ourselves, and handle challenges. It is associated with the fiery sign of Aries and the first house, and traditionally Scorpio in the 8th house. In astrology, we say Mars is about bold energy, in the first house of identity, in the 8th house of intensity and transformation. The archetype is the warrior. A healthy expression of Mars energy would be confidence, determination, courage, and taking initiative. On the flip side, the shadow expression could be aggression, impatience, frustration, or passive aggressive behavior. Your Mars sign shows you how you pursue what you want and handle conflict. Well, the house your Mars sits in reveals where your ambition and drive tend to be strongest. People with strong Mars energy often feel energized when they're taking action, competing, or working towards goals. Now we have Jupiter, which is often referred to as the planet of luck. Jupiter represents growth, expansion, wisdom, and belief systems. It reflects our desire to explore and learn and find meaning in life. It is associated with Sagittarius and the 9th house. Traditionally, Pisces in the 12th house as well. We say that Jupiter is expressed through the adventurous energy of Sagittarius, and it relates to the 9th house of learning, travel, and philosophy. The archetype is the teacher. The healthy expression would be optimism, generosity, wisdom, and openness to growth. The shadow expression would be overconfidence, excess, exaggeration, or unrealistic expectations. Your Jupiter sign reveals how you seek growth and understanding, while the house that Jupiter sits in shows you where life may bring opportunities for expansion. People with strong Jupiter energy enjoy learning, teaching, exploring new ideas, and expanding their perspective. Now, moving on to Saturn, let's reflect back for just a moment on the moon, which is ruled by Cancer and known as the mother of the zodiac. Now we're at Saturn, the father of the zodiac, ruled by Capricorn. Capricorn and Cancer are polarities. Saturn represents discipline, structure, responsibility, and life lessons, hence why we go through what we call your Saturn return. It reflects the areas where we must develop maturity, patience, and long-term stability. As I said, Saturn is associated with Capricorn in the 10th house and traditionally Aquarius and the 11th house. So it is expressed through the disciplined energy of Capricorn, and it relates to the 10th house of career, reputation, and long-term achievement, which is kind of why when we think of Capricorn energy, we think of that hard-working, grounded, money-oriented type energy. The archetype is the architect, and the healthy expression would be responsibility, discipline, patience, and strong boundaries. On the flip side, the shadow, fear of failure, rigidity, self-doubt, or excessive control. Your Saturn sign reveals the lessons that you are meant to learn in this lifetime, while the house your Saturn sits in shows where growth often comes through persistence and long-term effort. People with strong Saturn energy often focus on building stability, achieving goals, and developing long-term mastery. Next up, we have Uranus or Uranus. This planet represents innovation, change, and individuality. It reflects our desire for freedom and new ways of thinking. Uranus is associated with Aquarius in the 11th house. It is expressed through the progressive energy of Aquarius and relates to the 11th house as it rules community, innovation, and the collective vision. Its archetype, very fitting for Aquarius, is the rebel. Its expression in a healthy way is about innovation, originality, independence, and progressive thinking. The shadow side would be unpredictability, detachment, and rebellion without actual direction. Your Uranus placement reveals where you may challenge tradition or seek freedom, while the house it sits in shows where sudden change or breakthroughs may occur. People with strong Uranus energy often enjoy innovation, new ideas, and challenging outdated systems. Up next, we have the planet of Neptune, which some people refer to as the planet of illusion. Personally, I like to think of it as mermaid type energy. So Neptune represents intuition, imagination, spirituality, and dreams. It reflects our connection to compassion, creativity, and all the unseen aspects of life. Neptune is associated with Pisces, which is known to be a very intuitive, whimsical, dreamy water sign. And it represents the 12th house. So Neptune expresses it through the intuitive energy of Pisces. And the 12th house represents spirituality, our subconscious awareness, and our inner reflection. Fitting the archetype is the mystic. And the healthy expression is compassion, creativity, spiritual awareness, and imagination. The flip side of that in the shadow would be confusion, escapism, illusion, or difficulty with boundaries. Your Neptune placement reveals how you connect with your intuition and your spiritual awareness, while the house it sits in shows where inspiration or idealism may influence your life. People with strong Neptune energy may feel very drawn to the art, spirituality, music, healing, or any forms of creative expression. And last, and absolutely not least, because it is still a planet, we have dear Pluto, which is kind of similar but very different from the planet Mars in that people kind of know it to be the planet of destruction. And this is because the Pluto represents transformation and also power and deep personal evolution. It reflects the parts of life that push us to grow, change, and transform. It is associated with Scorpio in the 8th house. So Pluto was expressed through the intense energy of Scorpio. And the 8th house is about transformation, shared resources, and emotional depth. The archetype is the alchemist. A healthy way to express Pluto is empowerment, emotional depth, resilience, and transformation. The shadow side would be control, obsession, manipulation, or even power struggles. Your Pluto placement reveals where you may experience deep transformation, while the house your Pluto sits in shows where powerful personal growth may occur over time. People with strong Pluto energy often go through intense life changes that ultimately lead to profound personal transformation. Something else to note is that the farther a planet is away from the sun, the longer it takes to circle the sun, which means that it stays in a zodiac sign for a longer time. So which is why anybody that's your generation is going to have the same Pluto placement. So think about this in terms of all of the generational things that millennials, for example, have experienced, or that Gen Z is now experiencing. They all have the same Pluto placement. That was just a look at the core planetary energies in astrology from the sun through Pluto, including the rising sign, and what each of them represents within your birth chart. Understanding these planets helps us see the different layers of our personality and how these energies influence our life paths. Each planet represents a different aspect of who we are, and together they create a unique pattern of our birth chart. At the same time, this is just the beginning. The way each planet expresses itself is shaped by the zodiac sign it's in, the house it's in, and the aspects it makes to other planets, which means that this energy is going to look different for everybody depending on their unique chart. By exploring the planets, signs, houses, and aspects together, astrology becomes a super powerful tool for self-awareness, growth, and understanding the experiences that just shape our lives. If you want to take a step further, I also have another video that covers some asteroids and additional birth chart points that you can find linked in the description here, and that can help you add even more depth to understanding your chart. As always, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate any likes, shares, or subscribes to support me.